So to say, okay, what does it mean?
Hello and welcome. I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. According to local authorities, at least 5 people were killed and 35 others injured when a suspected suicide bomber detonated explosives inside a mosque during evening prayers in Maiduguri, capital of Nigeria's Borno state, while so far no group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Acting chairman of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, Tariq-e-Rahman, has arrived in Dhaka after nearly 17 years in exile. He has emerged as a leading contender for Prime Minister ahead of the February 12 elections, as he was cleared of corruption and other charges after ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was ousted. The Tanzania Civil Aviation Authority said a helicopter has crashed near Barafu Camp on Tanzania's Mount Kilimanjaro, killing 5 people, including a pilot, doctor, and a guide, as well as 2 foreign tourists. The aircraft was a medical rescue mission and went down at about 4,700 meters on Africa's highest peak. Saudi Arabia said it hopes Yemen's Southern Transitional Council will end an escalation after UAE-backed forces seized control of the southern provinces of Hadramaut and Mahra. Saudi Arabia said a joint Saudi-Emirati military delegation arrived in Aden on December 12 to press for an urgent STC withdrawal amid Yemeni backlash over forced invasion of the Yemeni islands. According to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents shot a man during an operation in Maryland after the driver of van allegedly rammed federal vehicles and drove towards officers, prompting agents to open fire yesterday, as local police now investigate the incident. Torrential rains have unleashed widespread flash flooding and mud flows across Southern California. Fire Department spokesperson Christopher Prater has said that in the east of Los Angeles, emergency crews spent much of the day answering dozens of rescue calls and pulling drivers to safety. The White House has ordered U.S. military forces to focus almost exclusively on enforcing a quarantine of Venezuelan oil for the next 2 months. U.S. officials says military options still exist, but focuses on economic pressure, while Venezuela says U.S. government is the threat, not Venezuela. 14 countries, including Britain, Canada, and Germany, have condemned the Israeli Security Cabinet's approval of 19 new settlements in the occupied West Bank, saying they violate international law and risk fueling instability. Now for this hour, we start with Indonesia. In South Tapanuli, Indonesia, residents of a Aik Nagadol village gathered for Christmas Mass at the Angkola Protestant Christian Church, 4 weeks after devastating floods swept across Sumatra Island. Despite the destruction that left homes and churches in ruins, the community found solace and strength in the holiday. Gathering flood survivors expressed deep gratitude. The Christmas spirit provided much-needed hope amid the wreckage. With flood survivors sharing the pain, priest Jansen Roberto Ritonga noted the psychological and spiritual impact the disaster had on the congregation, but emphasized that the Christmas celebration was a reminder of resilience and faith in the face of adversity. Let's listen into what the priest Jansen Roberto Ritonga has shared.
Dampak bencana terhadap gereja sangat banyak tentunya, karena juga terkait dengan fisik bangunan gereja dan juga gereja yang sesungguhnya, yaitu jemaat itu sendiri yang pasti terganggu psikisnya, kerohaniannya, dan dampak ekonomi dan dampak yang lainnya. Kita adakan siang, jam 2 siang, karena yang pertama dikhawatirkan akan hujan dan gelap, dan yang kemudian karena beberapa jemaat juga mengalami trauma tentang banjir ini.
Now we move on to Africa. An explosion hit a mosque in Maiduguri, Borno State, Nigeria, during evening prayers on Wednesday, killing at least 5 people and injuring 35 others. Witnesses have described chaos as victims were rushed for medical care. Authorities suspect a suicide bombing after finding fragments of a vest at the scene, and police are checking the nearby market for additional explosives. No group has claimed responsibility, but Boko Haram and ISIL's local offshoot Islamic State West Africa province are known for similar attacks. Maiduguri has been relatively calm in recent years, but the wider conflict in northeastern Nigeria has killed over 40,000 people and displaced around 2 million since 2009. Security concerns remain as armed groups continue to operate in the region. Now for this discussion, we welcome Professor Rohan Gunratna. He's a professor of international affairs expert, joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, what more can you tell us about this explosion in Nigeria?
Asuma, what we have seen is that there are two threat groups operating in the Borno state and also in the neighboring countries of Mali, Niger, Chad, and Mauritania. One is called Boko Haram, as you rightly said, and the second group is called ISWA, Islamic State West Africa Province, which is a breakaway of Boko Haram. So it is very likely that one of these two groups are responsible for this attack on the mosque, because what we have seen is that these two groups do not accept the type of Islam that is being practiced in the Borno state, which is a very traditional form of Islam. What ISWA and Boko Haram wants to do is to introduce the ISIS version of Islam, which is a very extreme version of Islam that advocates Sharia law. So what we are witnessing at this point in Nigeria is frequent attacks by these groups. But this particular attack has received very significant attention because the attack was conducted inside a mosque. So these attacks will continue until and unless Nigeria works very closely with the neighboring countries, Niger, Chad, Mali, Mauritania, to fight the threat of extremism that has now taken root in West Africa province and is threatening not just one country, but a number of countries.
Yes, thank you for laying it out all for us. And Professor, if I may ask, why would they, if they are also this suicide bomber could be from a Muslim group, why are they attacking their own religious site?
Within Islam, there are many differences. The most moderate form of Islam is called Sufism, that is local and traditional Islam. But unfortunately, from the Middle East, Africa has been infested and infected by the Salafi jihadi variety of Islam. And this type of Islam is very intolerant. And this form of Islam has divided the communities and created a huge conflict. Originally, this form of Islam, the extreme form of Islam, emerged in Egypt by the Muslim Brotherhood. So it's about 100 years old, but it became more extreme after Al-Qaeda and ISIS started to embrace and guide, and in that they attack not only non-Muslims, but attack fellow Muslims who are not so extreme like ISIS or Al-Qaeda. So the attack in the mosque is certainly by one of the two groups, Boko Haram or ISWA, but against mainstream or moderate Muslims. Most Nigerians are very moderate, very tolerant, like all Muslims in the world, but these extreme forms of Islam should be tackled very effectively, but it has unfortunately not been tackled because Muslim leaders have been very reluctant to criticize and condemn ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood, and all these extreme and radical forms of Islam. That should be their hope and wish for 2026.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that and sharing that insight with us, Professor. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, we stay in Africa. Residents of Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, has voted today in municipal elections, marking a step towards the country's first direct national polls in over 50 years. The last direct vote was in 1969, back before military rule began. Around 1,605 candidates are competing for 390 district council seats. Council members will be choosing the mayor, and the process is seen as a test for nationwide direct elections. About 10,000 security personnel were deployed, and streets and businesses were closed to ensure safety. The 2024 law restored universal suffrage, but the president will still be elected by parliament in 2026. Some opposition leaders warn that rapid changes may favor the current president and question security due to al-Shabaab attacks in rural areas. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Professor Rohan Gunratna. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor, for staying with us. Now looking at this, how significant is the fact that they're having an election after more than half a century?
It is very significant, Asuma, because of two reasons. One is when you hold an election, it gives the government legitimacy. And in this case, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud should be congratulated for hosting this election after half a century, after Said Barre, who last held the elections. So what we are seeing is that this election will help to marginalize al-Shabaab, which is the Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorist and the insurgent group that is also operating in Somalia. The second factor is this: for the first time, we have seen people of Somalia who have no memory of the last election, them going and voting. So, and also women voted in this election. And so I think that it is a major achievement for Somalia and those countries that are supporting the Somali government to restore capacity and capabilities to make Somalia a strong and a capable nation with a politically stable system that will ensure both social harmony and economic prosperity.
Yes, indeed. And also, what challenges do these, Somalia, what challenges still exist for them to have a democratic voter participation and elections in Somalia?
The biggest challenge in Somalia is insurgency and terrorism. It is coming from a group called Al-Shabaab, and this group is supported by Al-Qaeda, and this group controls certain parts of Somalia. Somalia needs not only developmental assistance, but also very good intelligence and military and law enforcement capacity building. So I hope the international community will not neglect Somalia, but will continue to support Somalia and even step up assistance after this election so that security and stability and peace can be restored in Somalia.
And how could this new local election framework affect the balance of power between presidency and emerging opposition forces? And who is ruling, who is the leader of Somalia right now, since we know that there were no elections for more than 5 decades?
So Hassan Sheikh Mohamud is the current president. He's a very capable and a very good president. But what is important is to ensure that there is a distribution of power, and that will happen in the coming months and coming years, because the election will give electoral legitimacy to those leaders. But it is happening after so many years. It is happening after nearly half a century, and what is important is to build those political parties, to build discipline, to build education, so that Somalia will be able to govern itself and will keep terrorism and extremism at bay. And that is so important because the Horn of Africa has suffered a lot from Al Qaeda and from ISIS. And I think that if governments overseas also can help those countries in the Horn of Africa or East Africa, especially in Somalia, we will have a very prosperous Africa in the future.
Yes, and can you tell us a little bit about who is covered or who is allowed to vote in these elections? If I recall my memory correctly, there is a land or a part of Somalia called Somaliland that's trying to break up or gain independence from Somalia. Are they also in this election?
Somaliland is not in this election. I visited Somaliland personally.
Oh.
So I can tell you that it's a very rich and a prosperous region, and it's a very stable region. But it has broken away from Somalia. And there's another region called Puntland that is also adjacent to Somaliland and adjacent to Somalia. Although it's a part of Somalia, Puntland is supporting the Somali government. But Somaliland, there were no elections because they have created their own government and they are now running their own affairs.
That is so cool that, Professor, you visited Somaliland. So when you visited there, do you have to go to their embassy? Is there an embassy abroad? And is it still recognized or unrecognized by other countries in United Nations or other countries who are established?
Somaliland is recognized only by a few governments. It hasn't received the same legitimacy as other independent countries, but it's a very wealthy province because it has emeralds and it has a lot of gemstones, and also it has many Western countries are supporting Somaliland to develop. But I believe that one day Somaliland may also join Somalia. If there is security and stability of Somalia, it is possible that Somaliland will be one of the federal provinces of Somalia. But at this point, it is not. And I personally believe that it is important at this stage for the international community to support all the countries in that region, because that region has been affected for a very long time from insurgency and terrorism. And as you know, the Red Sea shipping and the shipping in the Indian Ocean was also challenged because of the piracy in Somalia. So I hope that with political elections, with electoral legitimacy, the people of that region will recognize the government and will oppose Al-Shabaab, and Al-Shabaab will become marginalized, and we will have a stable Somalia in the future.
Yes, indeed. And lastly, looking at this Somalian election, there's 1,605 candidates contesting. Are they separated do they belong to a particular party?
No, they are from different parties. They belong to 390 local councils, and that is the beauty of the election, because there is diversity and there is greater representation. So there will be no dictatorship there. There will be only democracy. There are some allegations that this election is for the president to centralize power. I personally don't believe that, and I think that everyone should congratulate Somalis and Somalia and the president and the parties that participated in this election, and encourage others who have not participated also to participate in this election. Traditionally, these tribal leaders only participated in the elections, but here there's real universal suffrage, meaning people can go and vote. So this is a major breakthrough, a major political breakthrough towards establishing democracy and advancing democracy, and also having greater representation.
Thank you very much, Professor Gunratna, for sharing that insight throughout our news. Please stay with us as we come back to you. Now moving on to South Africa, 11 suspects have been arrested in connection with a mass shooting that has left 9 people dead at a tavern in South Africa. The arrest comes as police launched a manhunt for the 12 unidentified gunmen who had opened fire at patrons at around 23 GMT on Saturday in the Beckersdal establishment near Johannesburg. While the attack appeared unprovoked at the time, preliminary investigations now appear to suggest a motive linked to illegal mining turf wars. During the attack, gunmen continued to shoot as people fled the tavern, killing 2 as well as a taxi driver who had dropped off a passenger nearby. Upon making the arrest, several unlicensed firearms, including an AK-47 rifle, were found in the suspect's possession. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Professor Rohan Gunratna. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor, for staying with us. What more can you tell us about this shooting?
There is a rise of crime in South Africa, and it is so important to strengthen law enforcement and to reduce the level of crime. South Africa historically has been a very prosperous country, but after ANC came to power, we have seen a very sharp rise of theft, of murder, of rape, and other forms of crime. So I think that this should be a turning point to do 3 things. One is to regulate the free availability of firearms, because in this case they have used the AK-47 and such weapons should not be available for private citizens. Second is, of course, there should be greater vigilance on the part of South African citizens, so that they will cooperate and collaborate with the government to prevent this kind of violence. And third is, of course, to invest in education, because if you invest in education, you can build a very law-abiding society. So I hope that South Africa will take this attack as a failure of governance, a failure of intelligence, and will take steps to restore the security and stability and peace in South Africa.
And lastly, Professor, how does this incident in particular reflect, that the illegal mining, organized violence, and also the link between economic marginalization and violence crime in South Africa right now?
Economic marginalization has been a factor, even especially during the apartheid period. Before the ANC came to power and ruled South Africa, that must be corrected, it must be addressed, but it must be addressed in a very careful way, where people who work hard are rewarded. Simply because someone is black, they shouldn't have any privileges. So every community, whether you're white or black, should work hard to get what they deserve. And that should be addressed through education, because if you educate the people, then certainly those people will be more disciplined and they will also be prosperous, because the difference between the haves and the have-nots is education.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for highlighting that. With that, I would like to thank Professor Gunratna for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout our news. Now we move on to our next news. Alzheimer has been long considered irreversible, but the new research has challenged that assumption, as scientists have discovered that severe drops in brain's energy supply help drive the disease, and restoring that balance can reverse the damage even in advanced cases. In mouse models, the treatment has repaired the brain pathology, restored cognitive function, and normalized Alzheimer's biomarkers. The results offer fresh hope that recovery may be possible. According to reports, a study reveals that restoring the brain's energy balance may not only slow Alzheimer's disease, but also reverse it. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.